I'd like to also thank you for the invitation that was given this morning. I think it's wonderful that this court relies on God. And Stan, that was a powerful prayer. First question I have is the addition and remodel still in the thinking stage for the library, or have we decided to go ahead and do it? And is the $500,000 grant going to cover all this? Second question was who is included in the bid process for our architect? McGee? Was anybody else considered? And who is McGee? I noticed we have another firm that we use for the YMCA. Just curious about those guys and how we arrived at that decision. And has the money already been allocated for construction? So we're still just in the planning stages, this is correct. And have we taken into consideration the increased maintenance of the larger building and increase the staffing to maintain it? Just some questions I have, and just wondered if you guys had considered those. And I didn't take my whole 5 minutes, Steve, so you guys are pretty clear.
You can talk about some other things, can't you, man?
I don't know if I remember all those questions, but we'll try to answer some of them. Reason we used Alan McGee, sitting back there with the guy with the tie on, and is that he built both our, he was the architect that we used for the environmental, our emergency operations center, and for animal control. And the reason that we used Brinkley Sargent for the Y is because they started the project, and we just thought that they should continue that. I don't want to say this, but he's done us. Well, I do want to say that he's done us a great job.
So we didn't go out for bids?
No.
We don't have to on professional services. And the reason we didn't is because using McGee Architects, in my opinion, and one member of the board, he will do a cost analysis. He understands taxpayer money when we brought it up and asked him, and he absolutely does a budget, and if there's something that someone wants to add, then we find, it's just like building your house, in my opinion. We take away and we add back to something. But it's not a cost plus type bid situation. He understands on animal control and the EOC, when the sheriff brought the $750,000 grant forward, then we added another about $1.5 million of taxpayer money to finish the EOC. He knew that we only had X amount of dollars to spend. Right now, the way I see the library is the county's growing. If you look at the last census, that's obvious the county's growing. Every building we have, we're busting at the seams to the point that the driver's license office had to move because we need this space. The library has had a donation of almost $750,000. Whether we like it or not, the library is something you use, or whether you use animal control or the EOC or whatever, they still have regulations they have to follow. And the money was donated to the county for the use at the library. All we're doing, once again, is, yes, at this time we are going to, if we pass this, we're going to contract with Alan McGee and Associates for cost analysis. Just like the plan we passed on the building, that's a concept plan. It was to bring back, the gentleman on the building like to bring back a final plat to the court when he comes up with all of his outline. Alan will go work with the expansion committee, work with the court, design something that will meet the city requirements, the city needs, the cost analysis, and then we'll come back with the cost.
Okay. Are there any strings on this money from the foundation?
The best I remember, Ben, has to be used at the library.
Has to be used at the library?
I believe, and that's just shooting from what I remember when I read it. We go back and
that's true, and the money came from the estate that originally funded the library to start with way back many years ago. So it's strictly for the library.
Earmarked for the library.
Earmarked for the library. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was one of your other questions? Another good question.
Increased maintenance and increased staffing. Have we taken that into consideration? Are we going to plan the budget for future years? Do we have an idea of how much this is going to cost us?
Right now, we need, in my opinion, I need to see what this building is going to cost us to build. We're dealing with a land issue as well, and trying to meet requirements of the city because of parking. 2 years ago, I think when the court tasked the library expansion committee, Dominique, Kevin Downey, who was in attendance, Mary Cheney, who was in attendance, with the idea of where to move. The court, I think, was trying to be proactive on when we came back with the Kroger building, and the majority of this court has taken a tour of about 5 different locations. Some of it was too extreme for us, and the Kroger building was too expensive. So we gave them a directive that the public that's emailed us and called us said they didn't want the library moved out of its current location. So I think we're looking at how to expand and meet the next 15 to 20 years and stay there without going on and building a $10 or $15 million library and try to do something for a lot less to expand or remodel the current facility. That's my views.
So you anticipate the nearly $750,000 gift?
No, they won't pay for the whole expansion, no, sir.
No, I know that, I talked to Dominique, who's, her mother fell and maybe broke her arm, she was gonna be here. But she says that they're planning on, going out for grants and doing fundraising. Now, I don't know if that'll do it all or not, but, you know, we just have to wait and see. There's two things that one thing that we're doing right now, and then this. I believe the county should be taking care of only the things that the state has authorized us to do and required us to do. And that's to maintain the roads, maintain the jails, maintain the court systems and things like that. These are, and the Y and the library are two things that are not included in it. But the voters said, we want the Y, so they went out. And there's been a kind of a groundswell of support for the library. And libraries are great. I was on the library board in another town that I lived in. So I'm highly supportive of it, but I just, I believe that we should be concentrating on the things that we're required to, and not these additional things.
Sure. So maybe at some point in time, do you anticipate maybe creating a library district with board members and taking it completely out of the purview of the court?
We've looked into that, actually, and there's two ways of financing. One, that we could go in with the city and do that. The problem is that the city is already at their maximum on their taxes that they could, not their ad valorem taxes, but their sales tax, and that's the way one rate. And then the legislature passed another way they could do it, but then they didn't. But lawyers say that if the courts wouldn't approve it. So,
Another thing, man, when we looked at that about 2 years ago, that's a great alternative. The court would love it because it would get it would get it out of our backyard. But even prior to the librarian that left, when I first came on the court, the librarian was here and her husband was an ex-auditor for the county. We looked at that to set up the district so that they wanted to expand at that time. They wanted to give more raises to their employees and they wanted a lot of things. The problem is, and they were all for that, because that less than a cent that we already charged on your tax bill appeared to be all they needed to do what they wanted. But once your library district, as Mr. McBroom could explain to anybody who wants to know there it is, they had to take their salaries in consideration, their FICA, their withholding. They then could not make it. So they were going to have to raise higher tax than what we already have on there today. I didn't see that was helping the taxpayers if we raised their taxes even more just to fund that library. One reason I think that this expansion is important, if we can do it at its current location and do it for a lot less pennies on the dollar that we were looking at Kroger or a standalone facility, is that's the way it came back to us. We cannot afford $10 million at the old Kroger building. But we could possibly afford something like Alan McGee's firm put together at the EOC or Animal Control, that it would still be a nice facility for the people that use the library. It would still be a center point of that park, which is what I heard in my office, is people did not want it to move. And it would still be an opportunity to, upgrade, make it more, double the size of it with a possible second story at the back, and buy us 15 to 20 more years. If we can't buy at least 15 plus years, it could be a waste of taxpayer money. But, you bring these questions, and I know the library's been a hot topic, but it's the same thing we deal with, and the sheriff's asked, you're going to be easy, ask for more employees, because the population of our county continues to boom and grow. Chisholm Trail will do nothing but make that happen. If Crescent's ever fixed by TxDOT, which it should be a TxDOT project, it should not be the county taxpayer issue, it should be a state issue, then they just won't step up and fix it. But if they would ever fix that, Cook County will continue to grow. But there are people that like the amenities of the library, or there's animal lovers that love the animal control. So it's just a balancing act in my part. And I'm not speaking for anybody else, I'm just saying, you know, I do hear from constituents that want the library to be expanded, but they also don't want their taxes raised for some of them. You know, and so it's a balancing act.
Yes.
Okay?
I think it should be noted that the driving force behind that expansion is to a certain degree predicated on the state American Library Association accreditation rules, which dictate a certain number of library items per resident. And in order to, Karen Rasco, our librarian here, back me up on this, it's dictated by the number of residents, and that equates to a certain number of library items. Am I on point on that, Karen?
Yes, sir.
So accreditation, which came up a couple years ago, we were given fair warning that if that did not increase, among other items that are mandated, that we could lose our accreditation. And with the loss of accreditation, a number of significant dollars come into play in running your library, operating your library without accreditation. So that is a concern.
Can you dig into that just a little bit deeper, Butch? What kind of money and where does this money come from if we lose our accreditation?
In order to operate,
Mm-hmm.
it certainly wouldn't come from any state funding. It would be.
How much funding do we get from the state now?
It was brought to our attention, and of course, I mean, I'm not an expert on the library, so I'm not going to, but the thing it has to do is with the share of books and the share of grants that you can receive, you know. And yeah, we were told if you lose the accreditation, it was going to affect your bottom line on money. And our job's about money, obviously. But you know, man, we're not, and I've never had an issue with you or argumentative with you, but there's people in this room that are friends of mine, I call friends, that did not want this court to spend $100,000 to fight the water issue. Okay? But yet, it's a hat we have to wear to balance everything. And I would be open-minded to sit down and say, what do you want to see happen to the library? It's there. We already own it. If you own a car and its wheels are about to fall off, you got to fix it. So, you know, bring me a solution back and help me be part of the solution and understand what we all want from that side of the table versus this side of the table, so we have a mix and a balance, okay? That's all I'm asking.
I'd love to sit down with you and James.
I'd be glad to do that.
And see what we can come up with. I guess that pretty well takes care of it. Thank you all very much.
We almost got to 5 minutes.
And thanks for that $100,000 to save a life.
Yes, sir, I know you were a big proponent behind that. That's why I brought it up.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
One of the things that, and I'm glad it brought up that $100,000, there's people at other parts of the county that could have cared less and said, why are y'all doing that? Only God can put water in the lake, so, you know, but, you know, so we had, Kevin, do you want to address any of those things?
No, I think you guys covered it well.
Okay, very good. Karen, would you like to say anything about that? Maybe some of those grants or anything, or none of them?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like Karen to do, not to put her on the spot, Joe. Since Mr. Vernon brought a great point up, I'd like for her to come back in a month or 6 weeks, and I'd like for her to explain what accreditation versus non-accreditation does for the county and for the taxpayers. And I think we need to start back to, let's go back to base one, and let's educate ourselves so that we don't have rumors flying around and we don't have the fight and the inbreeding fighting amongst ourselves. Let's come back and let her have time to prepare a report. That way, both sides of the aisle will know that we're going to have this report and the date we're going to give that report, and then let them come back so that we can have questions and answers, even if it's a workshop setting, and let her explain why we need to be accredited, if accreditation is tied to population, size, or the amount of periodicals we need in our library.
And what's the benefit?
And what's the benefit?
The other, I would like to recognize Karen too, because she came in and about her second or third day, she presented me with the forms to sign that for their certification and, you know, for the annual report that has to go in every year. And, you know, she hit the ground running and I've heard nothing but good things about her. So welcome, and we were glad to have you here.
Thank you. But I can't take credit for that, Judge. The Casey Mayberry and Anissa Hatfield had it all ready for me.